So be admin.
Yes.
Was it specialized? Was it?
It was just like a general BCom degree.
Okay.
But when I looked at the courses, I got home and I looked at the courses and I saw it was like library studies and.
So I'm curious about what did you actually apply for when you did in the trick when you applied to go to the University of the Free State, right?
Of the Free State, yeah.
What did you actually apply for?
I don't remember, honestly. But I think because I went to the University of the Free State on a scholarship.
Okay.
I entered a competition called the Matriculant of the Year competition, and I made it to the top 14. And so it's a UFS competition with Volksblad. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I went to the University of the Free State.
Oh,
when I got there, I was actually admitted to WITS on a BSc degree, a general BSc. Yeah. I wanted to do medicine, but I didn't apply in time. Yeah. So when I got to the University of the Free State, it was only then that I was deciding what I want to do. And then, eventually they advised to BCom accounting. And then I did it. I think somebody said, if you do BCom accounting, you'll be a millionaire soon. Sooner than that. So I was like, okay, let me go for BCom accounting, and that's what I applied for. That's what I registered for, and that's what I studied for the rest of my studies at the University of the State. Yeah. And
was the journey easy? What were some of the challenges that you went through?
All right, so I think first of all, because this was not accounting wasn't a passion. I mean, even in high school, I passed it very well, but it's not something I wake up thinking about, which is what I define a passion, something you would do without getting paid.
Yeah.
So I think the first challenge is that because I didn't give it my all, I didn't get my undergrad with a distinction. And this was such a sore area for me. I didn't get a cum laude for my undergrad. I think I was short 2-3%.
Really?
Yeah, and that's it haunts me. It haunts me, but it's okay.
Have you forgiven yourself?
Yeah, I have. I don't know, but yeah, it haunts me. Then what also happened is that when I went to do my honors, I failed my honors. The first time I ever failed anything in my life. And I think it's because I didn't have a lot of self-belief once again. When we got to honors, you'd have lecturers saying, look to the left, look to the right, only one of you is going to pass.
I actually hated that.
Yeah.
Because it really broke a lot of students.
It did. And I mean, I didn't have a background of B accounting and whether people passed it or not. But, as I went to classes and people were like, oh, this is very hard. The pass rate is 30%. Then I think I started internalizing and I started thinking, I'm sure there are other people that are more passionate about this thing. So in the end, I failed. Then I decided I'm going to do it part-time while I worked. It wasn't really much of a decision because I had a scholarship from PwC. So they told me I have to start working. Then I started working.
Before we move on to the next set of questions, that moment of failure. Let's unpack that. The feelings, the emotions, what you went through.
Yeah.
And how easy was it for you to pull yourself up and say, you know what? I have failed. I'm going to do this part-time. I really don't have a choice because I have to start working. But what was the emotional journey
for
that?
me?
Yeah.
I think that was one of the most defining moments of my life. First of all, I think failure, by the time you fail, the final exams, you've already failed in your mind. So I think by around July, August, I had already decided that I'm not passing. If this is a 30% pass rate, those people are probably the 30%. And I remember they wanted to put up a list they put up a list and ranked us from first to last, basically. I didn't go and look at that because I was sure that I was not in the top 30 or whatever. But looking back, I think I was actually one of the students that was not doing so bad. And if I had not written myself off, I would have probably passed because just before the exam, I went to see one of the tutors and I said to him, I am really scared. I feel like I'm not going to pass. And he looked at my marks and said, no, you have a chance, And I think, one of the reasons I failed that year was I didn't want to adjust to the fact that, in honors, you don't get 80%, you don't get 90s. So I still wanted that 90 and I didn't adjust to, girl, just if you just get 50%, it's okay. So when I saw the 50s, the 40s, sometimes 30s, I just felt like, okay, I've already failed. So that's the one lesson I got from that failure actually is like the physical failure that we see. It's like the last thing in the process. Before that happens, you start talking really badly to yourself, you start giving up on yourself. Then the actual failure itself was really tough, TK, because I had defined myself according to my academic accolades. Like if you had asked me, how are you doing? I would have been like, no, school is really great. I'm passing, I'm doing well on this course, not so much on this one, but I'm working hard. That was like my reflex answer, right? And I remember one of my friends, Mahozo, you know her, who was like a mentor for me as well, one day said, how are you doing? Like
the person.
Yeah, how
person.
are you as a person doing? I don't care how you're doing in school, how work is going. So my person was crushed because I had defined myself by my grades and my academic achievements. So I had to spend the next year actually dealing with that. And what happened is at the beginning of the following year, when I decided I'm going to start working, there was actually an option to write a BCom accounting honors exam. So I could have graduated with a BCom accounting honors at the very least. But I was struggling so much that I didn't even write that exam. Like I had totally written myself off. I was depressed. I probably slept through the whole festive. I didn't want to go to work. When I got to work, my confidence was much lower, than when I had started varsity. And I had to start building myself up in terms of who are you as a person outside of your achievements. And I remember one thing that helped me was when we started at PwC. This Werner Landman, who was the marketing manager at PwC, said to us, there were about, say, 20 or 22 of us, I don't remember the number, who were starting as first years. And he said, guys, there's 20 of you, just so you know, at the end of these 3 years, there'll only be space for 5 or 6. So it's up to you how you define yourself in the next three years. And it has nothing to do with your academics. It has nothing to do with everything that you've learned from school. It will be all about who you, your value proposition, who you stand out, to be. So I realized in that moment that, okay, we're all starting on ground zero. Even those that already had their honors, there were a few of us who were repeating their honors, but, starting to work. So I just told myself that, you know what, this is my canvas, I'm going to define this experience for myself. Then the other thing is that I remember saying to myself, so for you to be a CA, you have to qualify in 7 years. So I was in year 5 now of the 7.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, you can still qualify in 7 years. If you pass your exams this year and then pass your board exams within the 3 years of articles. So I basically gave myself the goal to still be a CA in 7 years, which I achieved. So I think, just to specifically answer your question, self-confidence went down, but I had to define myself outside of my achievements. And that's where I started finding value in myself as a person, outside of all the different accolades. Now in my mind, I know that there's Likeleli the person and Likeleli the achiever at this and this and this. Those two are not related. Yes, if I don't achieve something external, it's okay. I'm still the same person. I'm still worth the same. And it doesn't really matter whether I achieve things or not. So my achievements don't define me. And I think that's why I said it's one of the most defining experiences. Because I think up until now, I would still be like, hi, I'm Likeleli and I'm this and this. I've done this. But that's not, my life anymore. So
you mentioned 2 very significant people, your mom and Mahozo, who was your mentor. So what's your take on mentorship?
Obviously, the Inspire Mentorship Program, I think, is a testament or a picture of what I think about mentorship. I don't know where I would be in my career if it wasn't for mentorship. And I say this because I've already given the background of how I got into my career, right? I had a mentor, Tabang Mutlu, who was my first mentor, or like official mentor at work. I'll try and reflect on like other mentors when I was a bit younger. But I approached Thabang actually. He was part of Abasa. He was a chairperson at Abasa when I started. And I just loved the way he articulated himself. I loved the kind of questions he asked. And I thought to myself, I would love to ask those kind of questions, when I'm holding a set of financial statements. So I approached him and said, hi, can you please be my mentor? I don't think he had ever like mentored somebody like formally, especially outside of work. And he said yes. And he was somebody that would encourage me when I didn't have the self-confidence. As I said, I was studying part-time in my first year. So I needed that motivation, that constant affirmation. I remember saying to him, oh, the exam didn't go so well, but I heard that there's another opportunity to write if you didn't pass. And he said, we passed, right? you passed, believe in yourself. Yeah. And just somebody that helped me plan my career. Another mentor that I have was Celeste Henning. She was my coach at PwC. Celeste, basically, when I got to PwC, told me that this year you just focus on your studies.
Okay.
Even if you get like the worst rating in your work, make sure you pass. Because we have people in this firm that have gotten the best ratings, but they are not CAs. And that doesn't matter in their career. So she said, first things first, you pass your honors. So that was the goal. Then I passed my honors. After I passed my honors, she said, okay, now you're a bit behind.
Now we need to
catch up. With the ratings, yes. Now you see, this person started with you, but they're now like an associate, they've been promoted. Now you have to catch up. So we have to now push the ratings. And then we pushed the ratings. So she was just somebody that believed in me. So because of this program at PwC, the training program basically that assigned you a coach, assigned you like a supervisor on each audit, I started seeing the importance of mentorship, of somebody really holding your hand through important life decisions or through just focusing on your career. And so when a few friends of mine approached me, I've always mentored people informally. And then when I was approached by a couple of friends for mentorship, I said to them, why don't we make this into a program? I don't think I can handle mentoring people directly. So I called a few people that I know and asked them if they would be interested to mentor other people. And then we opened up applications and asked people to apply for mentorship. And that's how the Inspire Mentorship Program was born. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Interesting journey. So now I want to find out. So you were based in South Africa.
Yeah.
You moved back to Lesotho.
Yes.
You left Lesotho, you went to Ireland.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you? And why was it important for you to take that leap of faith in terms of your career?
Yeah.
More so because you had left accounting, I would say. Well, accounting, auditing before going to Ireland, and you were focusing on Inspire at that time. And then out of nowhere, suddenly you are in Ireland. Tell us about that transition and why it was important for you.
Okay, so firstly, after I finished at PwC, I had applied for Ernst & Young Birmingham, in the UK. And I got a job there, right, as an assistant manager. But at the time, I was so scared. Like, I just had these fears around life. I saw myself in Birmingham, not doing well at work for whatever reason, and just miserable, not having my family close by. So I think for the most part of my life, I had a lot of fears. And I was always scared of the unknown. I had a lot of just uncertainty, and I didn't like feeling like that. So I didn't take the job. And I think I regretted it for a very long time, not taking that opportunity. So when I came back home, and I realized that the opportunities that were coming up were not as I had expected. And I just, coming back home can be a bit of a shock.
It is.
So there was a bit of, a culture shock, coming back to Lesotho and finding that it's not like even doing things that are impactful is not as easy as you would want. Then I decided, after I think it was 3 years of being here, I decided I'm gonna move to Ireland. It was not like I don't know. When I make decisions, I'm not too deep about them. in some sense. Like I would just decide, let me go and we'll see what happens with that opportunity. Yeah. So because of the CASA qualification, it was quite easy to get a recruiter on LinkedIn and to start having a conversation about, I want to move. And because I had worked for PwC before, it was much easier to get into a PwC. Yeah. So I went to Ireland. And then
I think in the last conversation that we had, where I was on the other side of the seat, we spoke about LinkedIn and the importance of it. So now you brought it up again. So I actually want to touch on that topic again and to get your sense of feeling on why you actually advocated for people to update their LinkedIn profiles. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's from that experience. And many other experiences, people have sent me messages, trying to recruit me directly for jobs in South Africa and even in Lesotho. And I've seen how when you start building relationships on LinkedIn, which is like clearly professional relationships, like so many other opportunities open up for you. So I advocate, first of all, LinkedIn right now, I think the uptake in Lesotho hasn't been, it's not as well as you would expect. And I think once we all start taking LinkedIn a bit seriously, then we can start benefiting from like networking through LinkedIn. Maybe employers will start posting jobs on LinkedIn. So I just think it's like your CV, like a public CV where people can just look you up. I'm always fascinated with the update you get that you showed up in 30 searches. You showed up in some search, So I find it fascinating that you could be sleeping and somebody who doesn't know you could be reading your CV and then decide that, you are worth their attention. Yeah, so it's much, I don't know. I don't even know why we're not taking advantage of it. So.
I think in the same light of social media or professional networks such as those, you were now part of Psycha's top 35 under 35, quite a prestigious honor. And I know, you mentioned that you're not defined by the accolades that you have. But in the industry that you're in, the South African Institute of Accountants, it's really a big deal to be top 35 under 35.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
So first of all, for somebody that failed their honors, this was a big deal for me. And also because I moved here. So when you move here and you're a CASA, everyone will say, why would you move to Lesotho when you're a CASA? Because getting a job in South Africa when you're a black female chartered accountant is like easy, yes, and you can get any kind of job that you want. So I think I felt like it validated the type of work that I'm doing because the category I was in was that of influence, right? So I think it validated the fact that, as a CA, it doesn't mean you have to be a CFO of a multinational to make an impact. You can actually just make an impact through other things that you do, even while you're a chartered accountant. So it's been a great honor. More than that, I think it's realizing that what I think I'm doing, if I think what I'm doing is amazing, there are other people out there that are doing even more amazing things. And it opened me up to collaborations, possibilities of collaborations. As part of that, we are part of something called FinBiz 2030. So it's an initiative by One Young World. And the I think it's Chartered Accountancy, something ICAE, I forgot, Chartered Accountancy Worldwide or something like that, yes, and Psycha, where they are trying to get chartered accountants to contribute to SDGs, right? So we're focused on 4 SDGs, so I'm in the education task force, and so it has forced me to start thinking how I can start influencing the education sector through the things that I'm doing. So right now I'm working on a mentorship program focused on the teaching profession. And my focus is on teachers, because I think if you empower teachers, you don't have to go and empower each and every student. Teachers, you empower them, you leave them there, and every year thousands of students or hundreds of students go through their hands, right? So I mean, that's such a unique initiative because it's saying, as finance professionals, you don't have to just be focused on financial things. You can also look at how to help the world achieve its SDG goals. Yeah. So it's just opened up my world, TK. It made me realize that there's so much more opportunity for impact out there, and the fact that I live here doesn't mean I have to be confined to how we think and how we do things here. I can still have my world expanded. Yeah.
I think you mentioned really, there's a lot that you said, collaboration.
Yeah.
You talked about impact. You talked about influence.
Yes.
And you talked about diversifying. You also mentioned networks,
Yeah.
So again, I'll come to the networks aspect, both locally and outside of the country. How important is it for people to have networks? What are networks, and how do you keep them nourished or nurtured?
Yeah. So I'll share a story, right? Which will give you an idea of why I think networks are important. So when I was part of Abasa, I was a treasurer for Abasa. So I took care of all the monies. So we hosted the annual Abasa convention in the Free State, right? And part of the national team, like people that were the president and the executive of Abasa at a national level. I was just in the Free State branch. So at a national level, the treasurer was a partner at PwC in Johannesburg. So I didn't know that. We had an interaction because I was a treasurer in the Free State. And he basically asked me for something that I didn't think was my responsibility. But I said, okay, I'll get it done. And then I went and I got it done. And when we met at the gala dinner, we were all sitting together in our respective companies. So all the PwC people were sitting on one table. Then it turns out we're sitting at the same table. So he says, oh, hi, you are the treasurer. Thank you for that thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, so where are you going to work next year? He was referring to after my articles. I said, well, I don't know. I want to stay in Bloom, but they're not really giving me a good offer as yet. So I don't know. So he said, I work in banking. I think he was in banking. I work in banking in Joburg. I'm a partner. Would you want to come work for me? And I was like, oh, yeah. The following Monday, when I got to work, he had emailed my partner in Bloom, and he had told me that he wants to interview me. And as a result of that, my partner in Bloom said, wow, great. So about that offer that you wanted. So in the end, I stayed in Bloom, but I was promoted to be assistant manager even before I got my results, my CA results. And this was really, for me, as a result of networking. So in a nutshell, that is the importance of networking. You could get a job from networking. You could get an opportunity. I mean, some people just want an opportunity to volunteer or to work for a company that is aligned with their values. Some people want to start businesses and they want a market to open up to them. When I went to the African Leadership University, we always said one of the biggest assets or one of the biggest reasons why one should do an MBA is because of the network. We had, I think, about, 20 countries or more in one class. So that means 20 African countries. So that means in those many African countries, I have somebody that I can call up and ask a question or ask for, an opportunity to collaborate. So there's an African proverb. I hate when they say African proverb. It's like, who said it? But there's a proverb from the internet, that says, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I believe so much in that. And I think that is the biggest value of networks, is that you get people to collaborate with, and you also, like, other people, consider you to be an asset, because you say, well, TK can collaborate with you on this.
And then now that you mentioned the MBA, why is professional development, particularly in your industry, why is professional development important? I know you're now advocating for the Lesotho Institute of Accountants, continuous development programs for accountants to develop themselves on various things. And I think also matching the professional development with technology and innovation, which I know are your areas of interest. Why is professional development important in the industry?
At a very basic level, we're living in a world that is changing every day. It has always been like that. Maybe the rates of change now are much higher, but I mean, what we learned in university, I was in varsity, like, how many years ago? 10 years ago?
You're old.
Yeah, I'm older than I look, guys. So the things that I learned there in accounting, in commerce in general, like we did a bit of law, all those things have changed today. And so to keep up with those changes, one has to learn, one has to develop themselves. The other thing is that the skills that one needs to achieve in life are different from the skills that one did in the past. So in the past, you had people that were experts, people would stay in one job for 20, 30 years. This is now not the case. You have a different skill set that you need to survive in an organization, such as digital skills. My own profession, the accounting profession, is being disrupted so much by technology. Half the things, in fact, I had the accountants training, young professionals training that I did, and we wrote a list of what they do on a daily basis. I said, guys, tell me what you do on a daily basis. And I said, then we went through the course that I was doing with them. And then I said, okay, now tell me how much of what you do can be automated. And it was like 90, 100% in some cases, right? So we are living in a world that just needs different skill set. If you want to be a manager nowadays, you need to be able to manage people.
People management.
Yes, we spoke about that last week. You need to be able to manage finances. Like you can't be a marketing manager and not know what your budget is and not know what the impact of your marketing campaign is going to have on the organization, like the financial impact. That's how you sell, right? A campaign. This is how much you're gonna bring in with this campaign. So you sort of have to be a well-rounder as a person. And obviously nobody was born a well-rounder, right? Some of us are good in other things and not in other things, but it's not an excuse. So you need to learn, you need to expose yourself to professional development so that you can stay relevant, so that you can become a better person, so that you can have results in whatever space you're in.
Interesting. So now there's probably a 20-year-old somewhere, well, 19, 18-year-old somewhere, or probably somebody our age who's in their 30s trying to do a career change, who are thinking of, wait, I like this conversation. I could be a chartered accountant. What advice do you give to them, or would you give to them?
Okay, I think chartered accountancy is one of the best professions that one can follow. And I say this because of how flexible it is, right? Currently, my role at Alliance doesn't have anything to do with money per se. I'm the head of strategy, projects, and innovation. And my ability to deliver in that role really stems from my foundation in accounting and the work that I actually did in audit, because the audit work gave you like an overview of the whole organization. So I think being a chartered accountant is like one of the best careers you can choose, but then I think one needs to spend time getting to know themselves. So do other things outside of work, where you can start discovering who you are and what you're inclined to, so that you can make that career work for you. So I love teaching people. That's why I like business consulting. In my work, I'm always looking for opportunities to impart skills and knowledge to people, because that's what sets my soul on fire. If I don't do that, then I'll be dead, right? So I think my advice would be that, if you want to go into a chartered accountancy, follow that career. Don't try and define too early on what you're going to eventually branch out into. I think if you asked me like 5 years ago, if this is the kind of path I would have been on, I wouldn't have known. I would have probably thought, I would be a CFO, a financial manager, which is also like a great opportunity, of course. But I would be really unfulfilled in that role. So don't try and define your life like when you're young. When you're young, just learn and take every opportunity as it comes, but have like a bigger, high-level picture of the kind of person that you want to be. I actually wrote this when I was 22, when I was at PwC in that first year, when I was working on myself. The first thing I wrote was, who am I? What do I have? Right? Who am I was me, the value, I'm a beautiful person. I am valuable. I forgot the things that I wrote, but it was around me as a human being. And then the second part was, what do I have? That was the accolades, right? I had to divide those. Then the second thing I wrote was, when I turn 42, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be sitting? How do I want to be feeling? What kind of people do I want to be surrounded by? What do I want people to say about me? And that's the vision I set for myself. I didn't say I want to be a financial manager or I want to live in Mauritius or wherever. I just said, what is the general sense that I want to have when I think about myself and my life? And that has really, to be so, shaped the learning opportunities I pursued, the kind of things I focused on as a person, because I said this one will lead me there, this one won't lead me there. Yeah.
So if I understood you correctly, having a well-defined vision is very, very important. And I think this also comes to some of the initiatives that you've done. I think earlier on in the year, you focused on a goal-setting session. You know, and you spend a lot of time reading different literature, different books from different. Why, again, I think you've probably mentioned this, but why is it also important for you to spend time reading and developing your mind and sharpening your mind? Why is that important for you?
For me, I think it's different for different people. I was actually saying to somebody that I'm the kind of person that needs to spend more time thinking. I feel like if you spend more time thinking, and my belief is that you can only pour out what you have inside, right? So some people talk a lot, but when you listen very well, you find that they're not saying much. I'm not impressed, you know, by those kind of people. I love like depth. I love knowing that when I stand in front of people, a lot of depth comes out of me. That requires a lot of thinking. That requires a lot of introspection, asking myself, why am I doing Inspire Mentorship Program? Why am I doing, you know, Inspire Innovation? Why am I taking this job? Why do I have this person as my friend? And then reading a lot to give myself different perspectives. So I like reading things that challenge my own views. So if I'm a Christian, I want to read about like a book about a Muslim that is advocating for being a Muslim. Because I think when I do that, I deepen my own beliefs, and I just get more depth from that. So it's really about the kind of impact I want to have, and how I've decided I want to engage with the world, not from a shallow perspective where I think I know everything all the time, or where I think I'm always right, where life is black and white. But I also have a lot of questions. I'm a curious person, and so I spend a lot of time trying to satisfy those curiosities and finding other people that have asked the same questions and all of that.
And I think in the last 6 minutes that we have, I'm gonna ask one question that is gonna get to for us to know Tkay. Tkay, not the brand, not the but the mom, but the family, the family person. That you share a lot about the journey of being a mom and the journey of your journey as a runner and the lessons that you channel. Tell us about why that's important for you to, beyond the accolades, beyond the vision that is so well defined. Why is it also important for you to have hobbies? And to live life, because life is really short. Why? Tell us a bit more about being a mom. I
think in general, I'm just somebody that likes to challenge myself beyond my own limitations. So, I talk about people that say, I'm not a speaker. I just don't speak in public. That's okay, but can you try? Can you try speaking in public? Have you tried it before? Did you faint? Did you die? I always say to my students, if you didn't die, then you haven't put in enough effort. So I think, to answer why I think it's important to have hobbies, I love to do things that challenge me. That's why I run. Then in terms of being a mom and why I share lessons from being a mom or running, it's because once in my life, I was a confused child. I was a child that lacked affirmation. I was a child that I wasn't sure of myself. Like, I was aware of my flaws, I was always told my flaws and all of that. But I didn't have a lot of affirmation. I didn't think I would amount to somebody. So every time I share, it's really from the perspective of, I know there's somebody that would love to hear this. I just have this thing in me that I want to share what I have with other people. I want someone listening to me to say, wow, even I can do it, and it comes from a very deep place, honestly. And it was also an intentional thing that I did. So there was a time when like social media, right? Or there was a time when I was a very angry person. And I used to, like, I was very, like, I would defend myself with words. Like, we could, you know, go on a contest, on a word contest. But I made a decision, you know, that I actually feel like God led me to saying, I can see the power of my words, but I'm now going to use them to build other people. So on social media, I'm intentional about what I say, what I share, and what I don't share. You know,
Okay. Yeah. And then the last ask before we wrap up. What's a quote? Well, give me a quote, a sentence, a phrase, not a paragraph, that gets you going when life becomes really difficult.
Yeah.
Because let's be very honest, as much as we are pushing and we are fighting and we are advocating, we're doing all this work, it does really get difficult, particularly in our country, you know. What's that one thing that gets you out of bed in the morning? Can be a song, a quote, a phrase. What's that?
What's that? So there's a quote that a friend of mine shared, Alisa Shai shared years ago. I think we were still in high school, and it said that the will of God shall not take you where his grace won't protect you. And that is my, like, when times are tough, I always think that if God wants me to be here, then he will provide. He will provide protection if I feel like what I need is protection, or he will provide the means. You know, that's why a lot of the things we do Inspire, a lot of initiatives we do, we start with literally nothing. But I'm always like, if this is what God wants me to do, he will provide. So that's something that drives me. Even when it's tough, I mean, relationships are tough, marriage is tough. We'll have another conversation about that. But even there, you know, I'm like, if God wants me here, he will provide the grace, he will provide anything that we need to get through this, he will provide.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mentorship Monday. On the guest seat is the founder of Inspire and the program, the brains behind Inspire Mentorship Program. It's been great. It's been such an honor to be here again. I will share, hopefully, behind the scenes of this journey and how incredible this journey is. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to share your comments if you have any. Ask us questions and let's engage. It's been great. It's been real. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Bye.